Welcome to another Liquid Bullet Productions. With us today is judo expert Natalie Powell. Hi Natalie, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Lovely, thanks for coming on. I've just brought in, he's actually my judo coach. I'm not nowhere near as good as you, but Mr. Paul Gordon as well. Thanks for coming, Paul.
No worries, Lee.
So, Natalie, you were ranked the first judo female #1 in the UK, is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah, can we just run through some of your achievements, please? I know there's going to be a big long list, but you'll throw some out there for us.
I think my biggest achievement is getting to #1 on the world ranking list and getting a world medal in 2017. I also got a few European medals and a few World Masters medals, which I'm really proud of. And I won the Commonwealth Games in 2014, which was extra special just because it was for Wales, and we hadn't nobody from Wales had won the Commonwealth Games before for judo. So yeah, that was a really nice moment.
Yeah. She's also a competitor in the Olympics, is that correct?
Oh yeah, I went to Rio and actually, yeah, that's probably I forgot about that for a second. Then yeah, no, that's one of my biggest achievements, I would say.
Yeah, great stuff. So, can we just start with a little bit of your background, Natalie? Sort of where you grew up and sort of your upbringing and stuff.
Yeah, so I'm from Mid Wales originally. That's where my parents are from, and that's where I grew up. I'm in a little place called Beulah, 10 minutes from Builth Wells. And when I was about 8 or 9, I joined the Urban Judo Club in Builth Wells with Richard and Philip Jones as the coaches there. And yeah, from there, I just fell in love with judo, I suppose. And yeah, my mum, I was really fortunate that my parents were very supportive, and my mum would take me all over the country, probably 3 or 4 actually nights a week, to Swansea or to Cardiff or Hirwaun for sessions, because where we were, you had to drive an hour and a half to get any sort of judo or any sort of training of the level. When I was about probably like 13, 14, once I started to get medals like in Welsh events and stuff like that.
Yeah. How did you first get into the judo? What was sort of did you know about judo, or just you saw it?
I was about 8, and I loved every sport, and I was a bit of a rough and tumble sort of kid. I was always fighting my dad in the bedroom at home, and from what I understand, I was knocking a lot of things over, breaking a lot of things, and there was a lot of energy that needed to be channeled somewhere. So my mum had heard from one of the parents in school that she was taking her son Luke to Urban Judo Club for judo, and she was like, "Oh, I think that's something that Natalie might like." So she said, "Do you want to go and try judo?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, awesome! We can fight. Yeah, fighting sounds great." So I she took me along, and there was maybe 3 or 4 from my class doing it at the time, and then one by one they kind of whittled away. But I just kept in there and just kept going. Yeah, going once a week, and then as I got older, the commitment got more.
How was your first judo experience, sort of getting thrown around and that? Did you
Yeah, everybody asks that question, but I can't actually remember the very first session that I went. But I think from the period of being a kid, I think I liked the idea of fighting. That was the main thing. I liked fighting. I also liked, we went to competitions very soon on. I think I had my first competition within like 3 or 4 months in Cardiff from starting the judo. And I got a little medal. I think I got second out of 3 people. So yeah, it's nothing to write home about. But we stayed there all day, and my parents were like, I think we got there, weighed in about 7 o'clock in the morning in Cardiff, and I didn't fight till maybe 5 or 6 in the evening. And I think my dad went across to the pub at about 10. He was like, "This is going to be a long day. I'll ring me when you're on the mat. I'll come back to watch." So I think they came back from it thinking, I hope she doesn't carry on with this sport, because this is long days and 2 fights and but I think I like the medal. I like the whole thing.
Like the competing side.
Kid, you just like those little things, don't you? Like a little reward for doing something. Yeah, and as the competitions went on, my mum got much more involved in it, and she really enjoyed taking me around. She had like a little social circle. She was friends with a lot of the parents and stuff. So yeah.
Well, what was your first sort of experience of judo? I mean, for myself, I was came from a karate background, sort of stand-up fighting, and I always used to think, judo's rubbish. It's no, they don't punch, they don't kick. And then I went down to judo pool one day, and I got thrown around like a rag doll, and I think I got more damage. I got more damage from judo than I ever did from being punched or kicked. So, did you not find a sort of impact on your body with the throws and stuff?
The impact is a lot of, I mean, my sister used to do karate as well. She and one of my best friends from school did karate. She was she was really good. I know there's a lot of different groups in karate, isn't there? There's a different associations there, but she was captain of the British team in whichever association. Oh, cool. So she was really good. She also did judo as well, but sadly she had to finish because she broke her arm and it scared her, and she couldn't come back after that, which is a shame because she was really good at judo. The impact of judo. It's incredibly tough on the body. And I think my very first thought of how hard it was, I went to British squad training for a week when I was probably about 16, and it was a 5-day camp in Sheffield. And I was not at British level. I was maybe like number 1 or 2 in Wales. And it was the worst week of my life. I swore after this week I would never, ever step foot on a British training again. All I remember is getting thrown on my back constantly, getting stuck out the front, and people having to come out and I couldn't even stand my ground with these people, and they were just throwing me repetitively. Yeah, just surviving the week was an incredibly big success for me at that stage. I think to get through judo, you have to go through a lot of pain and
suffering to get reward.
Until you reach a level where you can dish it out, I suppose. But yeah, the route's not easy. And I think on the way as well, I had a few injury issues. I suffered with migraines. So at one of my first international events, I went with the British team. I don't know how old I was, maybe 16. And in my first fight, I got hit to the head, but nobody realized I got hit to the head. And maybe like 40 minutes after my fight, I was just wandering around the judo hall in a daze, talking rubbish. I was stripping in the warm-up area, taking my clothes off, putting my clothes in other people's bags. Yeah, it was all very crazy. That's the last thing I remember. And then I woke up in a scanning machine. So then after I was told that I was just very erratic, going crazy, and when they got me to the hospital, they cut my sports bra off and cut everything off to calm me down and sedate me. And then I just woke up in the scanning machine. And after that, it happened a few times in different training situations and different competitions, and nobody could figure out exactly what was going on with me. So I had to take time out of judo. Then they said, okay, you're going to have to step out for 6. It was about 6 to 8 months, I think. In the end, going from specialist to specialist, trying to figure out what was going on. And in the end, we find out I suffer with hemiplegic migraines, which is a really and the symptoms of it is like a stroke, basically. When it happens, you have the stroke symptoms, but obviously you recover. You recover from it within 2 to 3 days. But that was very scary, particularly for my parents, I think, who obviously seeing me in that state was not nice, not knowing exactly what the cause of it was. So yeah, I mean that, and judo is the only thing that causes it for me. So if I wasn't doing judo, it wouldn't be a risk.
And Natalie, what's your worst injury you've had in judo? Was that caused by judo, or was that sort of did migraines there anyway?
I think it was caused by judo, because my very first time it happened, we put it as a concussion the very first time it happened, because I had poor technique in this one competition, and it was clear when we watched the video back that I'd come in for a Harai Makakomi against the left and just head dived into the mat, maybe 4 or 5 times, like repetitively, just poor technique, and a kid at that age. So at that point we thought it was just a concussion, but looking back, it looks like that could have maybe been a trigger for it. We don't really understand the brain enough to know if it was, but my mum swears she was like, I think that was the trigger for it. But, we're not sure about it.
Has judo brought you any other injuries? I see a lot of judo people with taped up toes and fingers and stuff.
I think I've been very lucky in terms of serious injuries, like operations and that sort of thing. But I mean, when I was thinking about my body, and every part of my body which isn't injured, there isn't a part of my body that hasn't been injured, like tendons and muscles and overdoing. I think most recently I broke my nose just before Christmas. Got headbutted. That had me out for like a few weeks. But there's always something. I've done my MCLs a few times. And,
I think judo is a lot rougher than people actually presume.
It's
lot more impact on that body.
No, there is. It's definitely a lot of impact and a lot of injuries. So yeah.
Can you just talk us a little bit through your sort of the grading system on how you went through that and what sort of grade you are?
Yeah, I'm currently a 4th dan, and the grading system is white, yellow, orange, green, blue, brown, black, and there's 3 mon grades on each belt. When I was coming through the system, you would fight for each grade up to your dan grade, which is black belt. And I think roughly every grading I went to, I'd maybe go up 2 mons. But now I think you can do a theory exam instead of the practical. You can either do it in fighting or theory. I'm not exactly sure how the system works in that sense now. But when I was coming through, it was you fought for it, and then you did some theory alongside it. There was 2 parts to it. And then to get your dan grade, I think you have to be 16 to get your first dan, if I'm correct.
Hold it,
Yeah, and then 17 for your second, and then it goes up. You have to be each dan for the amount of years that it is. So first dan, you need to be at least 1 year at it. Second dan, at least 2 years, and then third dan, 3 years. But there's also age limit as well. I think I can't remember exactly, but I think maybe for your 4th dan, you have to be at least 26 or 27 possibly.
So what age did you get your black belt there, Natalie?
I actually got a black belt at just turned 15.
Wow.
But I did feel like I shouldn't have really, like I ended up going to the grading to switch over to the senior grade. So going from an 18th mon to a first Q. But to get your black belt, there's often, you need to do a lineup. In those days, you have to do a lineup anyway. And it's very rare you get enough girls together to do it. So on this occasion, there were some other girls there that wanted to do their black belt. And I was there, so I was going to be a lineup partner for them. And they were like, well, do you want to do yours now? Because you don't get these opportunities very often. I was like, oh, I don't think I'm quite ready for that yet. So I did actually get it on that day, and I completed my lineup. But I felt a bit, you shouldn't really be that grade. Like when you turn up to train in your black belt, you're a bit uncomfortable. I'm like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm quite this level yet. But, I did actually get it when I was just 15.
Natalie, can I just ask you, where was the judo taking you? Obviously, it's taken to a few different countries. So where have you been with that?
It's been incredible, really. I mean, I've been all over the world. Japan, we've been there several times for training camps, which have been incredible. Whole different culture and different way of life. And the judo out there is just, I don't know. Have you been out to Japan to train for?
I've been up to Judoka and I've practiced with Kashi Wazaki, and that was amazing.
Yeah, it's just a whole other world. It's just like so nice to see where judo actually comes from, and just the level that there's so many people of a ridiculous level. Like, I mean, the top 4 or 5 in every weight would be at the same level as the British number 1. Do you know, like, or even better in a lot of cases. Well, better in most cases, I think.
Yeah.
But you know, like we churn out maybe 1 in each weight that gets to a world class level. We've got like 5 or 6 in every weight. It's a whole other world. So I think that's that's my favorite place I've been for sure. But I also really like Rio. I really like Austria, Portugal. It's just taken me all over the world. Yeah, it's incredible.
Natalie, can I just ask you how do you get selected for the Olympics? Is there a process you have to go through for that, or?
Yeah, so the Olympics is a 2-year qualification process, and you have to be, well, for the Rio cycle, you have to be in the top 14 women in the world, and then those top 14 with only 1 from each country allowed to go. And then for Tokyo, they expanded it to the top 18 women in the world and top 18 men, whereas in Rio it was 14 women and 22 men. But now they've evened it up, so it's 18 of both.
Yeah, you get points from World Cups, don't you, and Grand Prix that count towards it, I believe.
Yeah, so there's an IJF circuit of Grand Prix, Grand Slams, Masters, Worlds, European, and they take your top 5 results from each year over a 2-year period, and then you can have 1 extra result, which is the Masters or Europeans, and then they rank everybody based on that, and the top 18 will go.
Actually, who's been your toughest opponent on the circuit you've come against?
That's I would say Hamada, the Japanese girl that was the Olympic champion in Tokyo. Her Niwaza is on another level. It's I find her really strong. In going into Tokyo, I fancy my chances against everybody, but I can't honestly say I believe I was going to beat her.
Did you ever come across Kayla Harris?
Kayla Harrison was also she was also incredible. Like I was really lucky to go out and train with her before London for 2 weeks in Boston. Before I really got into full-time training properly. So that was really a fantastic experience. And she was also an incredible judoka. I'd never beaten her either.
She won 2 medals in the Olympics, golds, didn't she? So it was very good.
Yeah. You can't question that, can you?
What do you see the future holding for you in judo, Natalie, going forward?
Yeah, that's a good question. At the moment, I'm just looking 1 year ahead, really. I'm focused on the Commonwealth Games again this year, and then the World Championships in October are my main targets for this year. And then I'm hopeful that I can carry on till Paris, but Paris is still a long way away. So we're going to take it, month by month, year by year. But that is the long-term goal, I suppose, at the moment.
Right, Natalie, I'm going to hand you over to Paul for some technical judo questions, as he's more knowledgeable about this stuff than me. So take it away, Paul.
All right, Natalie. As I said to you earlier, your 2 favourite techniques, Harai Goshi and Ouchigari. Which is your favourite out of the 2?
I think Ouchigari is my favourite.
Do you find more success with the Ouchigari?
I would say that's my most successful throw.
And we spoke briefly about groundwork. I know you're not, you don't tend to go to ground, but what would be your techniques you'd go in ground, hold downs or strangles or arm locks you might use?
I really like the strangle. There's a strangle that I do a lot in training, and I also really like Pedro Pass. I don't know, you probably know from jiu-jitsu, or do you do some jiu-jitsu?
Yes.
That a lot of the things I liked on Niwaza I do in training, but I haven't transitioned them so well to competition. Like Pedro Pass, for example, I don't really get in that situation in competition very often. I would say strangle my favourite competition move. That's the one I've caught the most out of my limited Niwaza success in competition.
Yeah, there's a lot. I very much like BJJ, but I think one of the things that don't go to judo is when they go to guard, where they just sit on the bottom, wait for the opponent to come. We can't do that in judo because it'd be stopped too soon. But there's a lot of good transitional techniques from jiu-jitsu for sure. Have you got any right-handed techniques to use?
No, I don't actually.
Although, as we discussed, you're a right-handed person, which is unusual. I'm a left-handed person, and I throw right.
I did train a lot for obviously an ag back in years ago now, but I've never really pushed it through into competition. No, I don't. I don't have any right-handed technique. I don't think.
Okay, so what would you do in your drills as part of your drilling practice? Would you like uchikomi?
I don't do so much uchikomi. I do more. We do a lot of situation practice. So my coach creates a situation, like, for example, I'm trying to get my speed up on breaking the balance of a left-handed opponent. I can only take the cross grip and sleeves, and I've got to use my feet and break their balance and get them to the floor, and they've got to try and stand up. Or I can only grip 2 lapels, and I can only use my feet, and the opponent's got to stop me doing that. So it's all very much simulated practice, really. We don't do so much uchikomi these days. I found that that's been really effective in transferring the technique into competition, like getting that skill component. So when you do uchikomi and lots of throwing, it's not the realistic, like bridging that gap between competition and that. This is the stage that I feel gives the best transfer of the skill.
Of course, you're not going to get the standard grip given to you when you're fighting. You're going to have to fight for whatever grip, and it's all going to be grip fighting. And you're probably going to have to throw with unorthodox grips, which is quite common in competition.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, what would your typical training day be?
Well, it's very varied depending on what phase we're in terms of. We tend to try and peak for 2 events a year. So the World is always one that we peak for, and then maybe a Europeans or Masters, depending on which is the priority for that year. So we tend to do it in blocks of. This is very general, but a volume phase, more like strength and power endurance phase, and then a power phase at the end. The last 3 to 4 weeks before the competition. So the volume decreases as we come through. But I would say generally we do maybe 4 or 5 randoris a week in the evenings for an hour and a half, and then maybe 2 to 3 technical sessions a week, 2 weights or 3 weights, depending on if I'm doing a hypertrophy block or I need to get bigger or just maintaining. Yeah, two for maintenance, I would say, in general. And then, we do conditioning as well, which maybe 1 or 2 a week, depending on the phase as well. But now, as I'm getting older, we're going to have to decrease slightly. I can't get the volume out I used to because the body's just not playing ball as it used to. But
not as flexible. No.
So that will be reduced in the coming months, I think.
Yeah. So, with your general practice, are you practicing mainly with men? Because I know there's a limited amount of ladies in the actual into judo, really.
Yeah, I think in the British setup, actually, there's a really strong women's team at the moment, and there's quite a lot of girls to practice with there. But I moved away from the centre in end of 2018, I think. I was training back in Cardiff since then, and there I was really only training with boys, really. But now I'm out in Holland. I'm just training with girls, really. But in Holland, there's maybe 40 girls on the mat every day.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah, 70 to from 70 kilos to 78 kilos was about maybe, I don't know, 14 girls. So that's a lot of people my weight to practice with every day. Whereas in the UK, there's maybe 178 in the centre and 2 70s. So the difference in randori practice, is quite big. So that's a real advantage of being out there.
I also think it makes it more significant that our women's teams have been very successful over the last decades, right back to the all the players, Loretta Dawn, and all the different players we've had in the back in the 80s, Karen Briggs. And who's been your idol out of all these players? I mean, back in the 80s, 90s, or whatever.
Yeah, it's really hard because when I was going through, I wasn't really aware of the older judokas and their achievements and everything. Now yeah, so they didn't really have a chance to be my idols because I wasn't aware of them. And now I'm working alongside them. Like Loretta's career is incredible. Kate Howie's career.
Kate's brilliant.
Yeah, Kate's been my coach and friend for since I was 21. So I didn't really know of her achievements before she become my coach. So yeah, I didn't have that idol sort of thing with them. But I really respect all those people. That their achievements were incredible. Yeah, Frida Bryant, Kate, Loretta. Yeah.
So would you practice with the likes of Gemma and Karina Bryant and Gemma?
Yeah, as in Gemma Gibbons.
Yeah.
Yeah, Karina Bryant was a little bit before me, so I wasn't on the team at the same time as Karina. But Gemma, we went through the Rio cycle together. We were traveling. Well, we were going head to head for the Rio spot, so we were on all the trips together, and we trained together a lot.
So who in your British team has been your main opponent you've had to obviously beat every time to get to the #1 spot?
I think the Rio cycle was the one that really pushed me on to the next level. Going head to head with Gemma after she got the Olympic silver medal in London.
Yes, she did.
I think my without her to push me on to try to get past this, right? Yeah, she really brought me on that cycle, having that competition. So yeah, Gemma's been my biggest British rival.
Yeah. Last question I asked, then I'll pass back to Lee. What's your favourite medal that you've won? I know you've won the Commonwealth, you've won a world medal, you've won several Europeans and World Cups. What has been your absolute favourite? You feel that euphoria for winning?
I think you've got the obvious ones, like when you get your first world medal, your first European medal, but actually there's two competitions that I just was really content and really happy after. In 2018, when I got a Masters medal, I had a lot going on in my personal life in the lead up to that, and I'd finally come to terms with it all. And that was the first medal I got after everything was kind of settled down. And I beat Malonga, who's the world champion now, for the bronze. I threw her for Euronag. So that was one of my
Euronag.
Yeah, Euronag. So that was a good really nice moment. And my other one was in 2020 in Tel Aviv at the beginning of the year, and we went to the. I had my coach in the chair, Darren Warner, and he can't always come out to competitions because you have to have the British team there. And my physiologist came out and my team around me, and I won it on that day and beat a couple of girls I hadn't beaten before. And it was a really, really nice day for everyone involved. So I would say that's my other one.
I'll end on a question that I'll pass to Lee because he'll be interested in this one. Have you ever considered doing UCF or MMA?
No, I think because I'm not a very no. My if I got hit in the head, I'd have a migraine, so that would be a definite no. And my nuas is not my strength. It's not something I enjoy, like the standing. So I don't think my skill set or personality quite fits it. Sadly.
Fair enough.
Never say never, but I can't imagine it.
Natalie, can I just ask you about? Obviously, I know from doing karate years ago that it's not actually funded, so all the fighters have to self-fund. How is that with judo?
So if you move to the centre, British National Centre, and you're of a certain level, you can get funding. So there's a matrix of funding levels ranging from, I think it's like S to A. So say A level funding is 28 grand a year, lottery funding, and S is maybe 5 grand a year. So there's a big range, and each level has a certain performance criteria attached to it. But you have to be in the centre to get it. So if you hit the performance criteria and you're not in the centre, you can't get the money. So I moved to the centre when they centralised for a couple of years. I didn't feel like it was quite working for me. I've been really fortunate that in Cardiff, Welsh Judo, Sport Wales, and Darren Warner, they've supported me extremely well, and it's like really hard to match when you've got such a nice program around you. In the National Centre, you've obviously got 30 athletes there, with like 2 or 3 coaches, one S&C, one of this, whereas I had all that individualised, so that was really hard for a system to match, so I decided to go back at the end of 2018, and so they Welsh people supported me in the lead up to the Rio cycle? No, it's Tokyo cycle. So yeah, they supported me the last couple of years, which was obviously a year more than we expected with the postponement of the games. But yeah, I was really fortunate to be in that position, which other athletes from Scotland or England wouldn't be. Yeah, in such a fortunate position.
Is there a bigger funding in sort of Japan and places like that where it's sort of on a bigger stage?
I would imagine so, but I don't actually know what the funding situation in Japan is. I know that they, the top athletes, are funded by the universities until they finish university, and then they get they go to companies and are sponsored by companies. But I don't know how much money they get. I'd imagine it's pretty substantial because that's just me guessing. I know in France they're very well supported. Yeah, they're really well looked after in France. Once they finish their careers, they're set up with a house, and yeah, there's been money saved throughout their careers in order to make sure they can transition to the next stage of their life really smoothly. But yeah, I would say
a lot of the older traditional martial arts are sort of very low funded or no funded at all. Where the new sports of today, like the MMA and the boxing stuff, it's a very fortunate career, like a footballer, isn't it?
Yeah.
I feel sorry for the sort of sports that have been sort of left behind, really. So
yeah, it's really hard, isn't it? Because like money comes to sports from spectators, doesn't it? And then with MMA and the big show that they create around it, it's so much easier to generate money if you're,
I think as well it impacts the fighters, because if you've got to go out and do a day job, 5 days a week to earn a living, and then it limits your training time, doesn't it? So it makes it a lot more harder for the competitor.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, it definitely puts an extra strain on it. If you can just concentrate on your sport and know that you're comfortable in your private life and you can eat and sleep and travel as you need to. Yeah, it makes a massive difference. It's really important. So,
Natalie, have you got any funny judo stories for us you can tell us?
Funny judo
on your travels?
Yeah, everything always happens to me when we go away. Well, let me think. So I once got arrested for jaywalking in Korea. We were, the whole team was maybe 6 or 7 of us walking down the street in Korea, and then we're about to cross the road all together. And so, we're all together across the road. We're just trundling along, and then suddenly everybody else sprints back to the curb, and I'm like, what's going on here? And I'm like, well, the end of the road is there, so I'm going to carry on going. So I just carry on going across the other side of the road. Next thing I know, there's 2 police cars just around me, surrounded with sirens going, and then the rest of the team I can see like in the distance coming up, laughing in the distance, and I'm like, and then I kind of twig, oh, was I not going to cross the road there? They clearly haven't. And then I got these Korean guys just going in my ears, and I'm just like this, thinking, oh. And then the rest of the team come around the corner, pissing themselves laughing, and then I start laughing, and then that's the right way to go, because then I contacted the IGF and we had to pay a fine or something in the end. But it was okay, but it was a funny incident.
So Natalie, when you eventually retired from fighting, were you just go into coaching or just tip over with the training?
I am contemplating coaching. I think it's something that I would like to do. I don't know where, or because I'm obviously based in Holland now, and I think when I was in Britain, the path of which I would take was a bit more set out. Maybe get experience in a cadet role in Wales, and then build up and see where that takes me. But I have to explore opportunities in the Netherlands or maybe Germany, Belgium. There's a lot of places quite close around there for when I finish my career. But we're not sure when that's going to be. Is it going to be in a year's time, or is it going to be in 3 years' time? So we'll see where we are at that point. I think I'd also like to kind of work it higher up in sport at more of an organisational level, something along lines of like a HOPS role, head of performance support, or maybe a PD role in the far future. But again, those stages I'm clearer on in the UK, whereas in Holland, I don't know what those pathways look like the same. So, a bit to explore, I think.
Have you got any future sort of competitions coming up? Anything you're sort of planning for or heading towards at the moment?
So I've got the European Championships now in 3 weeks' time in Sofia. So that's next on the agenda.
Yeah, would that be on TV or Sky Sports? Something like that?
I think it's normally on TV online.
Okay.
I'm not sure with the Europeans. I think the IGF circuit they cover on BT Sport, I think. But with the Europeans, I don't know. I'm not sure if that's on BT Sport, but it's definitely on f1.org online.
Yeah. I was going to throw a random question out for you, Natalie.
Okay.
If you hadn't got involved in judo, did you have a different dream as a kid that you'd want to be?
I think it's always been sports. I've always been obsessed with sport, but I did really enjoy netball. So I think maybe I would have pursued netball as a career.
Yeah, it's interesting following the career of the ladies have actually outperformed the men. I wondered what Natalie might think of why the men haven't performed as well.
It's really hard to put like one thing on, isn't it? But I think there's a number of reasons. I think culturally in the UK, when I was coming through and we were all coming through, like back in the day, the culture was just so hard. Like there was you just had to train hard. You got beaten up. There was no child protection or like extra rules or that. Yeah, you couldn't do the sort of training we did when we were kids now because coaches would get in trouble for doing it because it would be breaking rules. And then we're competing with other countries, Eastern Europe. There is no child protection or mental health, which I don't think is right. But culturally, we're just so different, and we've transformed culturally. And yeah, it's really hard when the culture of your normal life is much more comfortable. Whereas in Eastern Europe, I think it comes down to culture. And I also think for the women, we can fight the men. We can always have a level higher in the UK. Like if I fight a 60-kilo boy, they can still throw me around. You know what I mean? Or a 66-kilo boy. Whereas the boys, they need to be out of the country to get that level of randori. Like for the 90-kilo, 100-kilo boys, there's no one to push them in the country, and that's expensive. And with Corona and stuff, how do you get that? You couldn't leave the country. So I think they're at a definite disadvantage in that sense in terms of bodies and just culturally. I think we've got to fight against culture these days, which we didn't have to fight against.
I guess likes of Ashley McKenzie, he had to go out and get self-funded, and he goes abroad quite a lot to practice, doesn't he? It's hard. I don't necessarily think it's anything to do with the way that they train the teams. It's more centralised, isn't it? I believe, but maybe he felt it was a constraint and he needed to go elsewhere. But as I say, it just seems like we haven't won any Olympic medals since Ray Stevens for the men. For the ladies, seem to medalled virtually every Olympics. They picked up a medal or two. So maybe, I don't know. But from me, nothing else from me, Lee. It's been great looking at the massive career of medals that athletes won. I could dream of it.
Natalie, have you just got any words of advice for any youngsters coming up and wanting to sort of follow the path that you've taken?
Yeah, I would say just the main thing is to enjoy it. And the other thing is don't really compare yourself to anyone else because just trying to be better than what you were the day before. I know that's really cheesy to say, but I think we're far too quick to compare ourselves to the latest Instagram person or people online. But just compare yourself. Just as long as you're improving, when you look back 10 years from now, you'll be really surprised with how much improvements you made. If you start comparing yourself and quit because, you're not good as this person, you're not good as that person, just gets in your way. And I just see it so often. I really just do believe just keep bettering yourself, and who knows where your potential will take you.
Okay, Natalie, is there anywhere anyone can sort of follow you or watch your footsteps, or do you have a web page or social media, etc.?
Yeah, I am on Instagram and Twitter. I think Natalie P_90. I'm probably not as active as I could be, but I am on the page. I try to do it. It just doesn't come so naturally to me.
Okay, we'll start to wind it up there, Natalie. Thank you ever so much for giving us a part of your time to come on.
No problem
thank you, Paul.
That's all right, Lee. No problem. Lovely to meet you, Natalie.
Yeah, lovely to meet you guys too.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Bye.